Yeah. Why?
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. And in this series we're going to be going over Saturn in the houses, okay? Saturn in the houses. And in this episode we're going to be talking about the first house, all right? So having Saturn in your first house, all right? And before we get into that, I want to remind you guys, if you enjoyed my little promo in the beginning of this video, that's my music video, definitely check it out. I'll have the link in the description box, and I have a bunch of other videos and music as well too, so check all of that out. Definitely appreciate that. But yes, Saturn in the first house. And before we get into that, let's just understand what Saturn and the first house is. Saturn in astrology is the planet of discipline, responsibility, and most importantly, structure. So I'm talking about physical labor, building, construction, work, labor, responsibility, restrictions, boundaries, okay? Saturn's not just about building and construction and building, but it's also about, and just work, but it's also about creating limitations and boundaries, okay? It's like obstacles. And this is all for discipline, responsibility. This is how we're able to work in life. This is how we're able to build our careers, do good jobs, do all this work that we do, especially on a physical level, okay? All of this takes discipline, it takes work, and Saturn does work you, okay? So anything dealing with work, labor, construction, building, all of that deals with Saturn, and Saturn also deals with your career too, okay? So the big job that you're here to do, you know, not even just your 9 to 5, but like the real big labor that you're here to do, your legacy, the evidence of what you've done, what you leave down here in reality when you leave, okay? This is all Saturn. And Saturn loves to deal with physical reality. It's very practical, okay? It's not really about emotions and the mind. It's more about what we're here to do physically, okay? How do we take all these energies and make it a physical reality? So Saturn's very much like that. And again, like I said, it operates on structure, discipline, responsibilities, boundaries. And then you have the first house. The first house is the house of your self-identity, okay, on the most surface level. So this is like your physical character traits. This is your personality on the outside, what people first see when they come in contact with you. This is also just how you identify and approach the world and see the world in general. So that is the first house. So the first thing I can say with Saturn in the first house, people, is you have a very like disciplined, critical self-identity, okay? So when it comes to who you are, how you identify yourself, you're very critical, very disciplined. And this is because a lot of Saturn in first house people deal with lots of responsibilities, deal with lots of discipline, deal with lots of criticism, deal with lots of restrictions and boundaries, which forces them to be more strategic and be more responsible. So because of that, and because this is the first house, how we identify themselves, this is very much in their aura. So, you know, they can come off very serious or even a little stiff. And this is because, again, this is how they identify. They're used to restrictions. They're used to discipline. They're used to being responsible for something. There's a lot of pressure here. So it makes a very serious person. And again, like I said, their identity, the way they self-identify with themselves, it's very critical, very disciplined. These people could be harsh critics to themselves a lot. This is the first house. This is who you are. So, you know, one thing I can say about Saturn first house people is like you guys can be very critical on yourselves. And this is manifested through the criticism you were given and the pressure and the responsibilities that you're given to do a good job. So very critical on themselves, very harsh on themselves. It could get really mean. So with Saturn first house, you have to control it because you have to understand that this discipline is for the betterment of you. It's for responsibility. It's for strategy. It's for preparation. It's for success. It's not, but it can get very dark-sided and you can become like just talking so negative to yourself and feeling so bad for yourself and just being too overly critical of yourself in a way that's not productive. And Saturn's all about production. Like, you got to be productive. So it's hard. This is Saturn anywhere. Saturn is sometimes seen as a bully. But you have to understand, Saturn's really trying to build you. So, like I said, with Saturn in first house people, like, especially in the beginning of their lives, they could be very critical on themselves. Like, say mean things to themselves, just like having these super high expectations for themselves, and they don't meet it, they beat themselves down. A lot of that is the pressure and the responsibility and the discipline that was put onto them. But you have to overcome this by understanding that this is to build you. You know, you're here to be a disciplined, responsible person, but not to beat you up, down. You know, not to just like, the whole point is to be productive. So you're not supposed to beat your whole self down. And it can be a difficult placement for the first house, okay? Because, again, a lot of pressure on yourself, your identity, your personality, you know, so definitely be mindful. But yes, your self-identity could be very critical with this placement. A lot of criticisms on yourself. Be nicer to yourself and understand this pressure that you're feeling is for you to do better. Okay, so you can fall and get back up. Okay, don't diss yourself for falling. You're supposed to fall to understand what you did wrong. Saturn puts you through these failures and these criticisms to make you do better. It's for responsibility. It's for you to get better. So don't become the person that's the Debbie Downer on yourself and always talking negative on yourself, and once you make a mistake you're like the worst person ever. No, you're making all these mistakes, you're going through these to build you, to make you more responsible, to make you successful, to make you disciplined, to make you be the person that Saturn wants you to be, which is very successful, very responsible, and very constructive and productive. So yes, definitely Saturn first house people could be very harsh on this stuff. It can lead to depression, issues with that, but understand like you are here to do a really good job. Be calmer on yourself, don't beat yourself up, and use these failures, use these restrictions as guidelines for you to get better, as obstacles for you to hop over. Okay, if the hurdle is too big, you have to keep practicing, you know, to get your jump up. It's okay to fall. So it's a very important thing I need Saturn first house people to do. You could be critical of yourself, but it has to be productive. It can't be about beating yourself up. So with Saturn in the first house, you can have limitations and restrictions when it comes to literally your physical body, okay? The first house deals with your physical body, literally. And these limitations and restrictions can be, it can manifest like maybe you're a man and you're very short, you know, maybe, you know, you can have like a minor disability or something. Maybe you broke something, you know, and you're healing. Stuff like this can happen, you know, with your physical body, restrictions and stuff like that. And again, this is actually to build your confidence. This is actually to build your resilience. This actually makes you want to work harder, okay? And this is really Saturn. Saturn puts a lot of restrictions on people, but those restrictions make people actually want to work harder and break through these boundaries. So they can be limitations with, you know, your physical body. You also have to be careful of like physical injuries as well too. So even if it's not something like with Saturn in the first house, sometimes people cannot like their physical body. But if it's not like that, it could just be getting into accidents, okay? So be careful with Saturn in the first house, because literally you have to be disciplined with your body. So, you know, Saturn will put restrictions, and Saturn rules the skeletal system, you know, so obstacles, you know, you could break, you know, a bone or two. So be disciplined with your body and take care of it, basically, when you have Saturn in the first house. And also accept some of the limitations, because I put in a quote unquote, because they're not really limitations, but because of the criticism that you have, because of the way, you know, certain things could be, you could, you know, be so self-hard on yourself because you don't look a certain way, but you don't have to, okay? What you have to do is work hard, be disciplined, and accept yourself for who you are. Approve of yourself. Build your confidence. Don't let your restrictions, you know, restrict you, because they're really illusions, and it's the way you're identifying with yourself. Okay, so again, Saturn in the first house people, they can have self-identity issues and could be looking at certain things that aren't perfect, but who is perfect, you know? Go through the obstacle, okay? Just because you're short doesn't mean anything, okay? Some of the shortest people, they become some of the biggest CEOs, the biggest managers, because they're willing to go beyond this restriction, this physical restriction. Oh, because I'm short, you think I can't do anything? So that's how Saturn works. It motivates you through the restrictions. That's why you see sometimes even short people can have that kind of like, with short men, they could have that like, kind of like complex, you know. I forgot what they call it, but like, you know, just issues like because they're short, they want to overcompensate. Saturn doesn't necessarily want you to overcompensate with your ego. It just more so wants you to build your confidence and still reassure yourself regardless of the limitations that you are perceiving, okay? So definitely be careful about that, because with Saturn here in the first house, it can make you look at your physical body in a way that's negative. And like I said, nobody's perfect, and as long as you have everything you need, you're fine to operate. So definitely be aware of that, because there's going to be a lot of pressure put into your identity physically. Also, with Saturn first house, these people can have a very serious look to them as well too. So it doesn't even have to be, you know, restrictions, but they can have a very serious type of aura. You know, when these people walk into a room, you can tell this is a serious person. You can tell, you know, they're not easily open, you know, like they have a more conservative vibe and a very serious vibe. So your look can be very serious as well too. And it kind of works for being intimidating or just for people to take you seriously, you know. Because again, Saturn in the first house, you have a very disciplined, serious personality. So you'll put yourselves in places where you gotta be serious, and that's because life is serious. So having that energy on the surface, as well as good for people taking you seriously because of how they're picking up on your energy and how they receive you. Also, with Saturn in the first house, these people are very career orientated. Okay, Saturn is all about building your purpose. What are you here to do? What is your big job here to do? Okay, and that's your career, okay? And people with Saturn in the first house are very identified with their careers, you know. All these restrictions, all these limitations, you know, people telling them they can't do this, them telling themselves that they feel like they can't do that. It, like I said, it kind of builds their resilience and their ambition. So Saturn people always want to overcome, you know, the obstacles. They don't really stay in this energy for too long, maybe in the early life, but as they start getting older, they're going to want to jump through these obstacles. So, you know, with career is a very big deal for Saturn first house people. These people want to make something out of themselves. They want to prove all the naysayers wrong. They identify with being big, being a big deal, being constructive, okay? That's how they see themselves. They see a lot of times Saturn first house people can see themselves as, you know, having big careers, being big bosses, owning businesses, you know, being in very high positions in life. That's also what they identify too. So they're going to be very career orientated, very ambitious, and very eager to overcome the obstacles that they've been facing so much, okay? A lot of these obstacles are building ambition, okay? Lots of ambition to overcome them. So that's how Saturn works. It breaks you down only for you to go and build it right back up. And that breaking down is honestly not breaking down. It's honestly building your character. It's building your strength. It's like working out, you know. You got to build, and go through the pain, and then you start seeing the results. So these people are very career orientated, and they really want to be big people in life. And they're going to put a lot of their energy and their identity into this, into who they are, what they're trying to do, what their big projects are, what their big purpose here is in life. Also, Saturn first house, it can manifest as being a late bloomer in terms of like physical development. So again, you could have been like maybe in your elementary days and junior high school, you could have been really, really short. And then like high school, you finally get a growth spurt, and then like you're like really, really tall, and like you didn't know that was gonna happen, but they can be late bloomers, you know, even in looks. You know, they could have not have been as attractive when they were younger or whatever. No one was telling them that they were cute and pretty, and then as they get older and more successful and accomplished, they start looking really good. Like, this is all about, you know, growing old, but getting better as you get older. Saturn deals with mature energy. So again, you tend to see, you glow up when you get older with Saturn. So since this is Saturn in the first house, we're talking about our physical body. Yeah, you could have been like that kid that was like really short or didn't get into your looks until later when you became more successful, older. And even physically, like, you could be a person who looks really good as you get older. Like, your older look actually is like, it's almost like you're a caterpillar, you know, a caterpillar. You get to the cocoon and then you become a butterfly. It's like a process. So you really get into accepting who you are physically a lot better as you get older with Saturn in the first house. So definitely like a cocoon to a butterfly, like a caterpillar to cocoon butterfly type of energy, where as you're getting older, you're looking better, you're feeling better, and all the delays before are now starting to make sense and come together. So yes, that is Saturn in the first house, okay? Saturn in the first house is a very, it's a challenging placement. All Saturn placements are challenging, but it's a challenging placement on who you are. But because Saturn's in your first house, you're so identified with Saturn that I feel like with Saturn in the first house people, they're very much able to overcome their obstacles because it's so much a part of their identity. So the energy is so familiar to them. So very powerful placement for people. Do not get discouraged. I know Saturn's, you know, hitting on your self-esteem, hitting on your body and how you see yourself physically. And I'm telling you, these are obstacles for you to overcome. They're not there to literally break you down. They're there to make you stronger. You know, Saturn in the first house is also trying to build your self-esteem, okay? You know, the way you see yourself, the way you know, your image, the way you see yourself, you could have a problem with that, you know, and you have to learn how to overcome that with work, esteem, acceptance, strength, okay? You got to overcome these things. So definitely a placement for you to flourish and blossom. So that is Saturn in the first house. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Okay, very disciplined people, very career-orientated people. And if you enjoyed that, book a reading with me, okay? I do astro readings with your birth natal chart. Just email me and we could go further with that. And also check out my music and all the links in the description box below. And I'll check you guys out on the next video.